This is an updated contribution list for you, Dan.
Great.
You should have a green packet. We're working off the green packet tonight.
Actually, there was a nice old couple that flagged me down to ask me directions.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. You wouldn't do that if I was 10 minutes early.
You wouldn't have been there if you were 10 minutes.
Right?
Now?
You're right.
Good afternoon, and welcome to today's meeting of the Fairmont School Board. It is Tuesday, August 27, 2019. Roll call is all present except Julie Lowy. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have minutes to approve from July 9.
I move to approve.
Can I get a
Second
second?
them?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we have a green agenda. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Celebrations, Tyler Garrison, water report.
I'll be giving you guys a handout here of the results from our LED or lead and water testing in our district. Here's copies of the initial. There's two smaller copies, the second, or the first one we do some retesting, so. This is the initial.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you, sir.
Thicker one will be the one we'll look at first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Top one's the one we'll look at first.
Okay.
So in Minnesota, we're required to, every 5 years, do a lead and water test in our potable water fixtures. The last one was conducted in 2014. We collected 92 water samples district-wide, which you'd think that's a lot of fixtures, which it is, but we always want to be thorough and make sure that we're collecting good data. We've got 53 that we conducted at the high school and 39 at the elementary school. The Minnesota Department of Health and the Department of Education recommend taking a fixture out of service if the levels are 20 parts per billion or higher. As we go through this real quickly, the results, there was a few when we did the first test, which happened in 2014 as well, that were a little higher, so we had to go back in and replace some fixtures. We had 8 fixtures that came back higher, and like I said, we've replaced those. We're ready for school to start, and we've had everything retested, and we are good to go. So, and in your results, or in your test labs, instead of parts per billion, it'll say micrograms per liter, which is it's equivalent to that. So if you look at your thick copied sheet, I could give you all kinds of paperwork, but I just wanted to give you the basics. If anybody from the public or if you guys want more information, I have more in my office to give you more in detail if you need it. We will need to post this on the school website, that we have done our lead and water testing, and that if anybody has questions or needs things answered, they can seek me out as well, and we'll post that on the internet as well, or on our website. If you look through your thick packet, you'll see that we are trying to stay under the 15 parts per billion, and in our requirements, we are to be below 20. The reason why we're at 15 is that's what the city has recommended, because we don't know exactly what their water is coming in exactly into our buildings at. So that's why we're at the 15 there. So you can quickly go through the higher ones. There's one that's was at 176. But if you notice, most of them are below 1.0, 2.0. Most of them, any drinking water is usually at 0.05, which that's the lowest you can get. Most of them are good. And this is a learning curve for me because this is the first time I've done lead and water testing. Some of them numbers that are higher are fixtures that probably haven't been used for a year. Some of them were old porcelain drinking fountains that weren't used for who knows for how long. So the next time we do it, you know, we should flush the system out at least 18 hours before you do a test. Some of those didn't get flushed out, so that's why some of the numbers are high.
Have those ones been replaced or removed?
Those have been replaced.
So everyone on here that's over 15 is no longer,
They have all been replaced. So the skinnier packet is actually the ones that have been replaced, and that was our testing that we just received back, confirming that we're good on all those that we did replace, so.
so it says bubbler on here, that's a Wisconsin word to mean drinking fountain, I assume?
Yes,
So those were taken out of service or replaced? Because I don't see those on the second shorter document.
so Mike, on the first one, if it says bubbler, I think one of them was by Stairwell 10.
Yeah, one was 10,
One was 10, it was replaced. I guess when they did their second lab, it just says first floor, drinking fountain. They changed it from bubbler to drinking fountain,
Okay. So that's what
penthouse
the,
number 10.
Okay, so that's.
So they
that's
have
the
been
question.
replaced.
Okay.
Yep, yep. And we could have, we have enough other drinking sources in our school. Joel has been good about, we've been replacing with Culligan systems. We could have capped them and just eliminated those, but they were all in areas where we felt it'd be beneficial to the kids to have more bottle fillers. One's down by the Performing Arts Center, down by the lockers. And so, we have options there down the road. If those old porcelain ones aren't being used, we can cap them and fill them in, but we felt replacing them was the best for the ones that were bad, so, at this point. So, any other questions? Okay. Like I said, I have more information at my office if you want more information on anything, and I will work on getting things together to post this on our website, so we've got good drinking water.
Thanks,
Thank
Tyler.
you.
Hey, Tyler, we're not gonna let you get away.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to the board a little bit about, we had a big meeting today at the Performing Arts Center, and you want to touch base a little bit on that? I know you're going to come back in October and give us a detailed report, but I noticed while we were in there, they're doing some roof repair, and also there's some gas people at the high school
Yep,
today.
we're really busy right now trying to get things finished up before school starts. If you remember the roofing project, we kind of pushed back towards the end of the season to get a better price. So they're going on that right now in the Performing Arts Center, removing all the rock, and then they'll be getting in there to replace they're restoring that roof, they're not replacing it. So we're busy there. I guess we found, since I started, found that there's a shut-off valve problem in our science rooms where it wasn't really safe for the kids and staff. We didn't have a shut-off in one of the rooms. You'd have to shut it off. One shut off 2 rooms, and really not legal. So we're in the process of getting that changed out right now. Harbo Mechanical's working on that, so a local contractor. So we're trying to get that in place for the school year before it starts, and All kinds of things going on, still dealing with some parking lot stuff, getting that finished up, and so, but I told Joe I'd come back in October and fill you in on what has been done this year again, so the public and you guys know what's happened, so.
Tyler, one other question. Were there plans for handrails in the PAC?
The question has been brought up quite a bit. You know, we added new handrails upstairs. We've got the handrails on the sides. The reason why we didn't put handrails on the main level coming down is some of the plays and things we have in there. And also the existing width is not really, I mean, we're going with what the pattern was there. We haven't really remodeled anything, so it's hard to get a hand railing in there because of the width of the aisleway. That's something we can look at yet, but in talking to some of the elderly, you know, we've got that lift now on the main, coming off the main level on or right in the front row. Technically, if we have some people that feel uncomfortable going down, they can use that lift.
Okay.
And get to a good seat.
Okay.
And so, I guess when we had our meetings initially with the committee, we just at that time decided not to because of the plays and the proms and people using that aisleway for different things. We could probably get some hand railings in there, but it's gonna be very tight
Okay.
with the width we have there, that
Okay.
we're working with, so.
Okay, so maybe we can just make sure there's some signage directing people to the,
Yep, and we typically have a custodian on staff that'll be by the doorway just like usual, telling people that if they need to get access to that main level, they can.
okay,
It's a matter of getting people trained in,
okay,
and, you know, when we sell tickets, you know, maybe we should have something on that portion of it too, saying if you have troubles, you know, getting in and out, that we have options.
okay,
So we've
Okay.
got two options. We've got the other option yet coming up from in the Commons elevator and getting on that level. We still have seating for handicap in that area or people that have a tough time getting in. And then we also have the front row seating now. So,
okay,
yep, so,
okay, thank you.
yep.
Superintendent Brown?
If you look at your calendar, we have a couple of items coming up. The next couple of days, the faculty will be back in the elementary and the high school doing teacher in-service. Today, after our initial meeting, we also had law enforcement from the city and the county that they came in, and we did active shooter drills at both the high school and the elementary. And I want to thank our local chief of police and his crew and the county sheriff and his crew to help us out. They did a remarkable job, and it was very important. Somebody acknowledged today that they were in the back of the Performing Arts Center, and when other people were getting up to speak, they noticed that some people were using their phones. They were scanning their phones, but when the law enforcement got up, nobody was looking at their phones. So people were paying attention. Just a reminder, too, to the faculty or to the parents that on Tuesday, September 3 and Wednesday, September 4, we have the K through 6 elementary parent-teacher conferences going on at the elementary. The first day of school for K-6 students will be Thursday, September 5. And the first day of school for grades 7 through 12 is Tuesday, September the 3rd. Tomorrow night, there is a back-to-school event from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And that was a very nice thing for students to come to and parents to come to. And they can pick up their schedules and they can take a tour of the building. And we have some new students that there'll be special things going on at the high school. Just a reminder, too, that this Friday is the first home football game. Marshall is coming to town at 7 o'clock. And I did meet with Mike Humple yesterday from the city. He gave the school district, I should say, another $10,000 check. We sold, the city has sold now the 10th lot at Whitetail Ridge.
How many are left?
10.
10, so they sold them all?
No, there's 10 left.
Oh, 10 left.
There's 20
20
total.
total.
They've sold 10.
They sold
and
half.
They have. Yep. Yeah, so we thank the city for that collaborative spirit. And that's all I have for right now. I'm going to wait on an enrollment report till we can verify what our enrollment is in a couple weeks.
Okay, very good. Finances, Dan?
Okay, we have donations and grants in Appendix A. I will move that the following resolution be accepted, accepting donations and grants. First, from Martin County Area Foundation in the amount of $10,000 for the Pro Start Culinary Arts Program. Second, from the Girls Basketball Association in the amount of $1,000 for the gym floor refinishing project at Fairmont Elementary School. Next, from the Boys Basketball Association, $3 for the gym floor refinishing project, and also $13,000 for the purchase and the install labor of new scoreboards in the Fairmont Elementary School main gym. And finally, from Jerry Brooks in the amount of $100 donated to the school aviation program in memory of Gordy Johnson.
I move.
Okay.
Was approved.
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Mike?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nicole?
Aye.
Murray?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dan. And we move on to financial reports and bills. Chris?
All right, I'm gonna start with checks. The first run I'm gonna go over is check date 7/23. The first check number I'm gonna go over is check number 62909 to Brennahan Construction. That's a payment for the PAC project. That was the only payment I was going to review on that run. The next run I was going to go over is also dated for 7/23. Payment I was going to review with you on that one was Dankin Applied, check number 62933. That is for the complete cleaning of our boiler systems. The next check number I was going to go over was 19021 for MSBA. That's our yearly membership fee and for services that they provide. And I believe that was it on that check run. Check date of 8/13. First check number I'm going to go over is 62982 for Adorama. That's purchase of our new drone. Check number 62987 to Brennahan Construction for the PAC project. That's a big chunk of it, most of it actually. Check number 62993 to Eric Johnson. That is for a tennis camp that he coaches. Check number 63003, Hiller Stores Inc. That's for new carpeting in the media center. I believe it was formerly a computer lab. That's it for that check run. Check run dated 8/13 as well. Check number 62969 to Martin County West. That is a payment for gymnastics. And then check number 62976 to Southern Plains. That is for targeted services. Next check run dated 8/27. Check number 63036 for Crest Refrigeration. That is food service equipment. It's a two-part installment that we paid earlier in fiscal year 19. Moving to the next run, check date 8/27. Check number 63053, that's updating some wiring for in the food service area, there was a little tripping hazard there. That's all I had on that run. I'm gonna jump to the budget model now. This is the budget model for June, so it's a first good look at how fiscal year 19 turned out. Starting with the revenues, state aid, received to date about 16.7 million. That number may change a little bit as audit becomes final. Federal revenue, that's solid. Property taxes, that's solid, and local revenues is also solid. Overall, it's looking like we're gonna come in within about 1% of the budget. And fairly similar to the prior years. As far as expenditures go, they should be pretty solid. I don't anticipate any real moving around there. We're coming in at about 97% of the budget for the general fund. Moving to the back page, overall, towards the very bottom there, summary of all funds. We came in at about 95.9% budget to actual. The big variance there has to do with debt service, with the bond refunding. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
And to point out, too, that we have auditors are on site today and tomorrow. I think we have 4 on site today, and I think there's an additional one coming tomorrow. And when will they come back?
We could pick what board meeting we want them to come to. I think it's historically been done in October here.
Right, right.
And I think that's realistic.
So I know that, and I was talking to one of the auditors today, that you and he have been communicating via email back and forth, and he seems to think that's going really well. So will this be the only 2 days that they're actually on site?
Correct.
Okay, and then they'll do their final report and.
Yep.
Who is our auditing firm?
Ide Bailey.
And this is the second year, I think, that we've used Ide Bailey. Before we used Clifton Larson Allen for many years. And these people are really good at school funding.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
good to work with.
Good. They know what they're doing.
Most definitely.
Yeah, they're good.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and this transfers from July 4th through August 22nd, 2018, and also the payment of the July, August bills.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mike. New business. Alex and Jake, the handbook.
Good evening. Last spring, there was a team of 10 individuals that met on a number of occasions to review the Fairmont Junior Senior High School Student Handbook. Out of that committee, my understanding was it was a dean of students, a social worker, 2 parents, 2 teachers, 2 students, a secretary, and 2 principals. Alex and I were not part of that process. That was 1 board member as
Yep.
well, sorry. Alex and I were not part of that process, so we were, after we were hired, part of our responsibility was to go look through the student handbook, make sure it matched the initiatives that we were bringing in, and make the changes with respect to the work that the committee had done. One of the changes for the initiatives that we have brought in is the elimination of huddle, repurposing of that time into our SOAR time that Alex is going to talk about in a little bit. With that, the first key change that you're going to see in the handbook would be the addition of the huddle time that was 15 minutes per day, and have that rolled into the regular day schedule. So with the regular schedule having those class periods extended to 50-minute periods, and then the 2-hour late schedule representing that does not have the huddle time built in, and that time rolled into that schedule as well. And then the SOAR time, which was the old fast time, that time is rolled into that schedule as well. So that's one of the key changes for the first part, and then Alex is going to talk about the SOAR time.
After talking with the elementary school principals, Michelle and Andy, we came up with a new acronym. Acronyms seem to be a thing we try to make plentiful here. But it stands for Student Opportunities and Academic Responsibility. FAST is formerly Academic Support Time. We wanted to really add in the opportunities side, so really looking for our teachers to expand their offerings for students into opportunities and enrichment, not just academic support. Because we have a lot of kids that are doing things very well, and we want to offer academic encouragements there and opportunities for our kids. So that you'll see, and that'll be run every Thursday. That hasn't changed. Those opportunities will be every Thursday. And then every other Thursday, we'll use one of our SOAR times to meet as an advisory for students. So each student will have what was similar to huddle. They would meet with one teacher, about 15 to 16 students will be assigned an advisor. And that's an opportunity for them to go over social emotional learning type activities that our student support staff will put together for teachers. And then it'll also be an opportunity to do grade level related things. So I'll just kind of briefly set up how we're going to organize that. We're going to have a 7-9 advisory system where a teacher will have a student for 3 years, and then after that 3 years, they're going to move on to another advisory teacher for the next 3 years. So building relationships with staff members is really the focus of that time. So as a staff member, you're not going to have a teacher have a student for 6 years that they're at Fairmont Junior Senior High School. They'll have them for 3, and then they'll move on to another advisor. Another thing that we switched around last couple of years, they've had a time known as flex for students, upperclassmen primarily, where they were allowed to flex out to different areas in our building. We've eliminated those areas in our building, and we have coined it now Honor Flex. This is an opportunity, again, for kids who have earned this in a responsible way to be in 2 different locations in our building. One is the Media Center, and the other is the Commons. So they have earned this, they have to fill out an application, and they have to maintain a certain behavioral status, attendance status, and also an academic status. So this is really an honor piece. We want to emphasize that this is earned. We want to give kids opportunity for flexibility. We also want it to be earned. So that's another highlight in there as well. It's not laid out in detail in the handbook, but there are other areas where we do have that laid out. And then a couple other things that we put in there, just some grammatical components that we wanted to change. A lot of terms like will be done, we changed to shall to make sure that we have some discretion in there as well. So those are some of the highlights. But again, to echo Jake, there was a committee of multiple individuals on this before we got our hands on it and did a great job of reviewing in the first place. So.
Any questions?
I have some questions. The explanation of the different acronyms and the changes, do you have like a one-stop like sheet that you can give people? Because it's, I think it's confusing for 2 different groups of people. Those people that have no idea what you're talking about still don't know what you're talking about. And then people that are accustomed to that old system are gonna be very confused because there are some changes. I think they're smart changes you guys are proposing. So do you have, a 20-page document's probably not a good
No.
explanation.
Well, we've got new teachers, new staff come in, and we've got Fairmont terms that we do, and that's even community-wide too. So that is a one sheet that we can maybe pass on to you as school board members too, and even have it on the website too.
On our website.
Website would be good.
That'd be absolutely outstanding. So we can do that. We can take a look at what's there for new staff that we hand out during new staff orientation, and then we can kind of see how we can get that present on our website, for sure.
And I don't want to, I like some of the changes, the grammatical changes or the cleanup of the language. I think having discretion to make decisions is important, but there's also times where, this is going to happen, shall happen or may happen, big difference. But one of the things that I noticed, paragraph H on page 23 is the appeal section. And I always think it's a good idea for students to have the opportunity to appeal a decision that you guys might make they don't like. But if you are the one making the decision they don't like, the appeal should go to somebody that's not you. kind of, like, the NFL, a guy gets suspended by the commissioner, and then they appeal to the commissioner, and he says, yeah, I was right the first time. I think that can feel unfair to people. And so we have co-principals, so one of you makes the decision, the appeal should be to the other one. And it says, panel made up of principal, student. The student must meet with the principal citing the reasonings for the appeal. This obviously was drafted in a pre-co-principal environment. Now that we have that, I would recommend establishing, Alex, if you make a call on something and they want to appeal, here's the appeals process, that appeal would go to Jake. Sure. Is in terms of a fairness thing.
Kind of an implementation.
Yeah, so, it's a very short paragraph for something that I'm guessing isn't used all that often.
Correct.
And given my profession, I kind of zeroed in on that, like, hey, principal, well, we have co-principals, which one? So just something to heads up. And then finally, Jake knows this because I talked to him about it a lot. Paragraph C on page 10 is the backpacks section. And I don't want to soapbox for a long time and point out why we should allow backpacks, but, it says individual circumstances will be reviewed by the administration. I think you might want to consider being careful with that language. We don't want to have a case-by-case exception. But, when I hear from students and then also parents of students, especially parents of young female students who are entering the high school for the first time, the idea that they couldn't have a backpack or a purse with them is startling. And also, if there's an exception made and it's only for young female students who are happy to be carrying their, it adds a lot of anxiety, I think, to our female students in particular at that age, where they're at the new building and their bodies are developing, and I just don't know if it's sensitive enough for me. And the other thing, so I think really some more thought process should be applied to that topic, and clearly involve some female staff in those conversations. The other issue, and Jake knows this because I was kind of talking about it, when I look at the 4 cardinal expectations and the district themes, a lot of them hit on responsibility, safe environments, and responsibility, and treating others with respect. And I do wonder how telling people they can't have their backpacks is really consistent with those themes. If they're not using it responsibly, it's taken away. It's a privilege, it's not a right. Obviously, you can't have contraband in your backpack, but this policy, I think, is very good on criteria for what you can and can't do and what the sanctions and penalties are for those violations. I think it's really good on that, but for some reason, you can't have your backpack, and it doesn't really say why. And based on some feedback that I've heard, I just want to encourage you to consider changing that either now or in the future, or involving a committee to review that, because it's pretty, jumps out the page at me when I go over it. So those are all my, other than that, don't take this as a critical comment. This is a large document, and I think you clean up a lot of stuff that I otherwise probably would have pointed out needs to be cleaned up. I think you've done a really good job with that. So, good job.
Now, Nicole, you were on the committee, is that correct? Did the backpack issue come up?
Oh, yes.
It did? Okay.
It does. The main reason that it was decided to keep it as it was for fire safety reasons, because previously when there were backpacks, they were all over the floors. I mean, the teachers had difficulty walking in between the rows. And also for safety reasons that Mike kind of touched on this. We wouldn't want someone bringing a weapon into the school and being able to tote it around easier than they could if they didn't have that carrier with them, the backpack carrier with them. So, but this is something that comes up a lot. I mean, we had one student at one of our morning breakfasts say, I can carry a trapper keeper that has a zipper on it, size of a briefcase almost, but if I put a handle on it, I can't. But it's the same thing. So it is an issue, and there's a lot of discussion and questions about it. And, just because it's in the handbook now doesn't mean it can't be changed if it needs to be. And I think as principals in the building, as you meet and talk with people, I mean, be able to make a recommendation for it.
I think that's a great point, Nicole. I mean, it's a living document, and you guys are in charge now, and so it should reflect, what the board wants in there, but also what you think you need in there to be able to manage the school and maximize the learning experience for everybody. And so, I mean, yeah, I encourage you to keep looking at it. I mean, I had a backpack or a briefcase that I would not have been allowed to take to my classes, but I had in court today in 2 different courtrooms in 2 different counties. It's pretty common, it's pretty normal. Students have stuff in there that they shouldn't have. You could have policy that makes them subject to search. The elementary school has backpack, racks hanging outside the classroom. Is that something that teachers that are having issues with too many clutter, they could incorporate that? I just think there's, I guess the last thing I'll say on it is the safety and learning environment is best created when there's trust, teachers and students, teachers and administration, school board, students amongst themselves. And I think there is a lot of trust there. We're not gonna trust you to be responsible with the backpack to carry all your educational gear. That message comes through. I don't think that's intended, and it might be a tool to help build some trust, especially with students that are relatively new to this experience and maybe it's not normal for them to not be able to do that. So just something to think about.
A general observation that was made is that students, because there are, is it the 9th graders this year that have never been allowed to have backpacks? If they've had backpacks before, they always bring it up, whereas if they have never had backpacks, it still might come up, but it's much less of an issue. So,
I think what I'm hearing is that this is a living document, and just because we approve it tonight, the board approves it tonight, doesn't mean that a month or 2 months or 3 months
Right.
from now, you couldn't come back with a modification. And so, have fun running the district, running the building, okay?
I just, a couple things to add on that. When it comes to the backpacks, more and more now these days, we're seeing them especially in sporting events and larger public gatherings where you have clear bags and clear backpacks now. That would be a suggestion to see if those might be allowed, if the visibility of bringing in a weapon would be a problem. I'd consider that. And on the fast time topic, I had more feedback from students on that issue than I've had on anything else that I've had since I've been on the school board. And they all were telling me, we like fast time. So what can we do to show these students who were making good use of it that they indeed still have some of this flexibility and that they have an opportunity to kind of take charge of their own learning in that? Because I think the ones that I heard from, and they were pretty well spread across all grades, from 9th to this year's seniors, and they all unanimously wanted to have that fast time.
And FAST still exists.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing, it's just renamed. The options for where they can go are with teachers. So they have those opportunities. We're tightening it up, we're not letting them go to different spots within the school. So they have options for where to go, and they do have that responsibility piece. So it wasn't eliminated, it's still.
Yeah.
Dan,
Then that
are
might
you
need to be.
referencing the flex time?
Well,
The flex time would be where in the classroom, if the teacher's flexing students out,
no, it
would
was,
they be allowed to leave?
it was fast.
Okay.
If they were, it was that. And if it is just indeed a name change,
The only other change to it is
Yep.
we built in a passing time. Some of the feedback that we got from staff
Yep.
was that one fast session would end and the next one would immediately start.
Mhm.
So it was hard to, have that checks and balances built into the fast time. Where now we have a 30-minute fast session, a 5-minute passing, and then the next fast session. For a couple reasons, give kids a chance to get a little bit of break before the next session. But then they have that time that they have to be designated in that next fast session.
yeah. Well, and if it still exists, it just has a different name,
Summer
that,
session, I should
yeah.
say.
Right.
Please, please tell the students.
Yeah, that'll
that-
be
so
made very,
so that
very
it
clear.
allays some of their tension over that.
Mhm.
It's probably a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
You
Anybody else have any helpful suggestions for our principals?
Can't wait to see what you come up with.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
Good luck
you.
with the next year.
I'll make a motion to approve the Fairmont Junior Senior High Student Handbook.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Joe?
Well, tax abatement, you'll see in Appendix C, there's a proposal to have the school district approve or consider first of all, and then approve a tax abatement for individuals that build duplexes or multifamily complexes within a certain time frame of August 13th, 2019 through December 31 of 2024. This is modeled after a very similar tax abatement that is located now in Albert Lea and in Austin, Minnesota, with one exception. In the Albert Lea and Austin, those tax abatements are for 5 years, and this proposal is for 10. And I've been serving on a housing committee. There's a lot of concern here in Fairmont about the need for affordable housing and to encourage more people to actually live in the city limits. And we certainly need more multifamily dwellings. This does not apply to an individual dwelling, and this has nothing to do with the CHS request. This is something that is totally different. So I'd be glad to yield to any questions. Otherwise, I'd ask for the support of the board.
So this is for owner-occupied construction?
Well, not necessarily. It's
No.
for people that, it could be. I mean, if you.
Oh, and rental.
If you
Yeah.
built a rental, or if you could build a duplex, live on one side, rent the other side, and you would get that tax abatement. Or it's really to encourage construction companies to consider doing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the apartment stock in this town is in very poor shape, I think, and I thought it was that way when I moved here 22 years ago. There was a lack of places that I would have considered livable coming here, and the problem's only gotten worse over time. So that's a definite must. The only frustration for me in the Whitetail Ridge project the whole time is that we have these lots, and it is really wonderful, but all we have out there are a bunch of, the word that's commonly thrown around these days now is McMansions, that are these great big homes for, a family of 4 or 5. I'd like to see some housing that would be able to handle a dozen families of that size or more, and not just the affluent ones who can afford to buy two $30,000 lots. That's always been a bit of a rub for me against of that. But otherwise, it works spectacularly well. But yes, we need apartments in this town badly.
Just for clarification, the Whitetail Ridge lots go for $55,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and it's zoned single family, so you couldn't build an apartment building there.
Right.
Right.
But I think
Yeah.
Dan's point is that we need that. Here, Mike, the concern I have with this isn't that it's in the school district's best interest to do an abatement on new development, especially one like Dan's talking about that's a multifamily dwelling that would likely increase our student base. My concern is that this is not about a specific project. This is more of a generic abatement. It's like a pre-abatement in advance. I haven't done any of the legal research. I know we have an attorney. I would love to hear the legal basis for essentially a pre-abatement. I would love, I'm very supportive of sending the message that I can't speak for everybody here, but I'm very interested in, for the school district, abating taxes on residential development in this community, whether it's single family or multi-unit. I have very strong interest in doing that. It's very much in our purpose and our public benefit. But I feel like I want to have the opportunity to evaluate that request on an ad hoc basis. So if somebody comes in and wants to build frankly, a senior 55-plus condominium of 10 units that will generate exactly 0 students for our school, that's less interesting to me than somebody that's doing a 10-unit apartment building that's open to the general public, or it's highly likely, in fact, almost certain that we'll have students. I'm not saying I'm against senior housing. In fact, we need that probably just as bad, but that should be evaluated on an individual basis, I think. And so I'm not understanding if we pass this resolution, if we've now taken away our opportunity to evaluate each project seeking an abatement on its own merits on an individual basis when it's actually ready to happen.
Mike, my observation of what's going on, and because I live on the Mauer-Freeborn County line, so I get both the Albert Lee paper and the Austin paper. When they do build senior housing, what generally happens is that it opens up affordable housing for younger couples to buy houses that are now being vacated because the senior citizens are moving into the senior housing. This is, I know, it seems like there's more housing development going on right now in Austin than there is in Albert Lee. I think Austin's a little more affluent community than Albert Lee is right now. But I think the idea behind this is that that's what I mentioned earlier, that it's kind of the calling out for construction companies that if you want to do business in this region of the state, that there are communities that are willing to encourage that. And this is one way to encourage that. So your point's well taken, but I do think that my observation of when more senior housing is available, it does tend to open up other houses.
Well, and you also, with most of the senior housing, you have employees that work in one form or another in that senior housing unit, and so that brings people who have housing elsewhere.
This is the kind of housing I was talking about. I was talking about like a retirement community, 55-plus condominium, where you build a condominium of 10 units and you have to be 55 years old to live there. And it's not an assisted facility. I bought this condo for $250,000 and I have to be 55. It's essentially, I have to be affluent and I also can't have children.
Well, there are eligibility things, and you have to have an application through the city. So, I mean, I think those situations would weed themselves out, applying for it. I mean,
And remember, this is a tax abatement, which is a temporary abatement for only
Right.
10 years.
Right.
Which means on the 11th year and thereafter, the
You're paying
units that are
taxes.
here will be paying taxes. And,
Right, but I guess the point I'm making is why wouldn't we're having a hypothetical conversation today about a hypothetical future thing that doesn't exist, right? We don't know what's being proposed to be built. Why would we not want to evaluate it on its merits at the time it exists? We could pass a resolution saying we're very supportive of development in this community for residential housing, and we would strongly consider abatement of your taxes if you state your case and ask us. But I'm not sure why we would abate it without it actually existing. And I'm not even sure we can do that.
Well, assuming we can, I don't know that we can, your question there, but to then have it be abated, they would have to have extensive planning, cost, plans put in place before they would be able to approach to even have a possibility of abatement. And whereas if it's already in place, that yes, you'll have an abatement, I think we would be more likely to have people invest in that housing because I don't know that it would be such a onerous.
if you might go to page 2.
Yeah, it
If you
says
look up the application.
has to approve it.
Because this
Right.
is modeled this is almost
Page 2
identical of this.
Appendix C.
Yeah, Appendix C. Do you have this one here? Oh. Okay.
Appendix D.
Go to page 2, talk about, see where it says application? It says a complete application for abatement shall consist of the following: a letter requesting abatement for eligible projected, addressed to the economic development coordinator, the county coordinator, and school superintendent. Legal description of the subject property, including address and property identification, a set of construction plans for the proposed project, including site plan, submission. And so I think your point's well taken. I think this document is pretty much a encouragement of future folks to come forward and apply for an abatement. And it's my understanding, as I read this, that each proposed abatement would have to be approved individually by the city and the school
Yeah.
district.
And you have to meet the eligible requirements on the front of the appendix.
Right.
So,
And that would eliminate the potential for any abuse by a developer that would be
Right.
taking advantage of that and against our intended purpose then.
Right. So I think your point's well taken. I think this does do what you want it to do.
But the first sentence says, in an effort to spur development of more housing options for our workforce, the city of Fairmont, Martin County, and School District all agreed to abate property taxes for new construction of residential housing in Fairmont.
Yeah, but you had to keep reading the rest of the compo, then you talk about the eligibility. It's not for single-family dwelling, it's for duplexes and multifamily complexes. You gotta read the whole thing in its
Yeah.
entirety.
I don't see on here, though, where it says the school board would approve each individual abatement. Looks like the city council
It says the
would.
school superintendent.
Yeah, as I see this, I mean, I would certainly never, I don't have the authority to abate taxes. So what I see this is that it would come to me as superintendent,
So does that,
Register.
yeah,
And
but does
then
that need to be changed?
Then I'd have to bring it, well, I think, I read this to simply, this is kind of informing that this is the proposal, but I can't abate taxes. It would take a school board action to abate the taxes. Just like it would take the county commissioners to abate the taxes, and it would take the city council.
What's the time frame for trying to get this approved?
Well, I think one of the groups has already approved it. August 13th was this, we're hoping to start this on August 13th. And if it would help the board, I would certainly ask Lindsay to come, and since she's the one that's been promoting this.
Who drafted this document?
This is almost identical to the document that's on the record in Albert Lee and Austin. This is, it's copied from those two cities. But if it would be helpful, folks, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, maybe we should just take a pause.
We could table this for now, and I could have Lindsay come and address the council.
I guess I'm highly supportive of the concept. I don't want to give that impression that I'm not. I think this is a no-brainer. I'm not understanding our legal ability to pre-abate somebody's taxes, which is what the intent, it will happen.
Well, it says if you meet the eligibility and your application is approved on page 2. So I don't think it gives it a blanket. You're just, if you do this, you start building a multi-housing development, you're gonna get it. I don't read it that way. Now, I'm not an attorney, but it clearly says eligibility, you have to meet these requirements, and it has to be approved by these 3 entities.
So I think it'd be a good suggestion to table this.
Sure.
And I'd also like to state, yeah, I'm fully on board with the idea of it. I don't think it would hurt to have someone else peruse over it to see if there's not anything in this language that accidentally goes against our interests. Because it's not, meant to be constructed that way, but, I would say that there would be a slight concern for somebody not coming in to develop something that wasn't what we had hoped for, where we would get the benefit of having families with students, which is the entire goal of us abating taxes on construction like this.
Well, let me do some more research, but I would ask for someone to have a motion to table second, and we'll vote on tabling.
I'd motion to table the agenda item tax abatement for new housing starts.
Okay?
I'll second it.
Dan?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Wait,
What's that?
opposed?
Oh. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Did you vote?
Yeah,
Okay, 3-2?
yeah.
Okay.
All I heard is the aye.
It's okay.
I wondered if you noticed this.
Want to go to,
So who's doing,
let me just talk about
Association.
what this is. This is Appendix D. And what this is simply calling for a public hearing to be held at our next school board meeting, and we would hold this right at 5 o'clock to talk about the request from CHS to have a public hearing so people can talk about abating their taxes for the next 10 years. I did go to the county courthouse the other day and sat through a county commissioners meeting, and there were 4 people from CHS that presented. It was just kind of it wasn't a public hearing necessarily, but it was just kind of an FYI. And a couple of things I learned at this meeting, by the way, was CHS is the largest property taxpayer in the city limits of Fairmont. They currently pay $765,185 in property taxes. Now, those taxes are split among the city, county, and the school district, of course. And this new proposed project that they have is a $100 million project, but the county assessor came and spoke also, and he pointed out that it's only going to increase the new taxable value at $5.3 million. So the net result is that it will increase their taxes after the new addition is put on and the new equipment is put into the building by $140,000. So basically, they're requesting an abatement that's going to save them some money for 10 years, but then on the 11th year, they're going to continue to pay the $765,000 and then start paying another $140,000. So this is not approving this. Will note, though, the city council did vote on this last night. They voted unanimously, which is amazing for the city council to vote unanimously on anything. But, well, it is. I've been reading the newspaper, too. I'm sorry. You know what, Mike, I was thinking about this. We could have the city attorney come and talk about this, but there is no city attorney, right? All right. No, anyway, I'll get back on track. I apologize. I'm sorry, it's getting late.
No editorials.
Okay, no, I apologize. Anyway, this is only calling for a public hearing, and if you approve the public hearing, it would be at 5 o'clock on September the 10th, which is our next school board meeting. And then after the public hearing is over, we go right into our school board meeting.
Are we required to give them a public hearing on their abatement request under the statute?
I don't know the legal answer to that, Mike.
Okay, in the resolution of statutes, blah, 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 B, it is a legal requirement that the county hold a public hearing prior to adoption of the resolution granting any property tax abatements.
I think it's a good idea.
Well,
I think Joe did the math on this for me and sent me an email on it a couple weeks ago, because I knew I would have people asking, well, how much it would, is such and such share and this, that, and the other. I think, what did we say, what did we figure out the amount was for the entire 10 years? 54,000, I think? Was it something like that?
for the school district.
For the school district
Right.
share over the 10 years was $54,000?
Per year.
No, I think it was total.
Yeah, I'd have to go back
In
and
the
look
abatement,
I'd have to
yeah.
go back and look at my email.
Yeah.
But,
It wasn't a huge amount?
well, when I was at this meeting at the county courthouse, the things I noted here, they have 52 full-time employees right now, and they do need to upgrade their equipment, and they need to expand. But it was interesting, though, there were a number of people at the county that day that had some concerns about the expansion, and the concerns related to the increased amount of truck traffic and the fact that the trucks that are coming in now, some have to wait 3-4 hours to dump, and they get a lineup on the highway, and they
During harvest season especially.
during harvest season, right? They do during harvest season, they do unload 250 trucks per day, and this would be a 30% increase in truck traffic coming into town. And there was concern about the highway. The highway, the county built that new highway. They paved it, of course. It was a $500,000 project, and it's going to be more wear and tear on that. But some of the folks that live in the region, they were most concerned about the amount of truck traffic that would increase. Also, there were the one commissioner from Truman pointed out that the trucks that leave here to go to Mankato to drop off the soybean oil, they speed through Truman. And of course, the trucks are not owned by CHS, they're owned by a subcontractor, and somebody suggested that maybe somebody should pull them over. And, but, there were some concerns, and when I talked to the CHS people after this meeting they had at the county, they said, it's really good to listen to these people because there are some concerns that we need to deal with. We need to figure out a different way to stage trucks. We need to figure out a different way to have the traffic flow. But this would allow trucks to dump much quicker.
Yeah.
And they do dump 24 hours a day. So I learned a lot. I didn't know. I've actually visited the soybean crushing plant before. About a year ago, I took a tour. And it's kind of nice for our farmers to have a nice place to get rid of their product. And, the oil goes to Mankato, and the stuff that's left goes out to the hog confinements. So this is big business for our region, anyway. But I think having a public hearing is a good idea.
I do too.
So, a couple things. The Exhibit A, notice of public hearing, this is, it says, is this copied from the county's notice of a public hearing? It says, notice is hereby given that the Fairmont Area School Board of Education will have a public hearing on September 10th. But at the end of that paragraph, it talks about the amount of total taxes proposed to be abated by the county. And then later on in the third paragraph, it talks about the county, if the county fails to comply, like, we aren't the county, we're the school board. So that language needs to be changed to accurately reflect that it's us that's holding the public meeting and not the county. So if we do pass this, I would encourage us not to pass it as written in Exhibit A, because it says county and not school board. And I'm not sure that's accurate or not. I'm obviously an attorney, but I am not the school's attorney, so I will not give my opinion as to whether or not that's accurate, but we should verify that first. The other thing, so that's like a practical thing. We're gonna do it, we gotta do it right. I think we'd all agree on that.
Right.
Whether or not we should do it, my concern is that, having a public hearing on this is required in order for us to get input from the public to comply with the statute before we could do an abatement. But, they're allowed to ask us nicely. They're allowed to give us information in advance to say, here's what we're proposing to do. Would you please consider a public hearing? I've not received anything from them. I've not seen any documents from them. I know that they're very far into the process of planning the expansion. They've hired subcontractors, some of which are locally, most of them will obviously not be because of this, the detailed, customized nature of the project. I know that they've applied a permit for Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and that open public period has closed sometime earlier in the month. I think they applied for that back in July, which you can see the details of what they're proposing. So in addition to capacity of operations, they're also gonna increase the amount of VOCs and other pollutants that they are putting into the air, which is why they had to have it approved. I've had some people mention concerns about the increased smell that we might expect to see with the increased production. I don't think that's necessarily a measure stick for whether or not we should do an abatement, but there's clearly a lot to this. And I've seen not one written piece of paper from CHS as an elected official for the school board saying, please do this, and here's why it's in the public good for your school district to abate our taxes. They haven't asked that.
Well, they've been in contact with me, Mike. They've had multiple phone calls to me. This document is coming from the economic development person, Lindsay Price, and
Well, that needs to be shared with us before I can consider whether or not I want to give them a public hearing. The reality is, whether or not we give them an abatement, they have already decided they're going to do this project. So the idea that they're only going to do this project if we give them an abatement, and I think Dan's right, it's not a substantial sum of money. I don't think that's
I don't know
the fair
that that's the
question.
case.
The other issue is, public-approved referendums are not abatable, and I'm not sure, this is another question for our attorney, what percentage of our actual tax levy on them is even subject to an abatement? I think part of it is certainly not. I think most of it would be. But that's the type of question that I think our school board should have.
well, Mike, first of all, the $765,000 that they're currently paying, the three entities total, that was abated initially. And we have started getting that money. And again, this doesn't generate any additional money for the district. That's something that's hard for people to understand. We can only raise money based on the number of students that attend our school. And the property taxes that are paid to operate our school, somewhere around 10 to 12% of our total budget. 85% of our budget comes from the state of Minnesota. And so for 10 years, for 8 of the 9 years that I've been here, they didn't pay any taxes that went to the school because the previous city, county, and school district had all abated that to have that plant come to town. Just like the ethanol plant, the one ethanol plant that's in our district. One is and one isn't. Green Plains, by the way, they pay $705,000 in property tax. One of the reasons why property taxes in this town are so inexpensive, I hate to say that because no one likes to, in fact, I paid property tax, I went to the courthouse today and paid property taxes on a rental house that I own here in town. I wanted to get that done before October. But, so these two companies, these are the two largest taxpayers in the city limits. Green Plains pays $705,000, CHS pays $765,000. Both of those plants didn't pay taxes for the first 10 years they operated. They were all abated. But it's one way to encourage economic development. So here's the thought I have. If you have a problem with the public hearing, these folks are scheduled to come to town that day. If you just want to say that we're going to open up our meeting and have them present information to us, and it's going to be an informational hearing instead of a public hearing, I'd be okay with that too, because that's really the intent of this. That's why they wanted to come and present to the school board what they want to do. We're not going to take action on the 10th of September on whether we abate these taxes or not. This is simply this is the document that would allow us to ask questions. And the questions that you have and the concerns that some people have are the same issues that came up a week ago at the county.
So, I mean, I realize a public hearing is an opportunity for them to have that discussion, but my question is, are they entitled to a public hearing? I mean, that is not something I think they're entitled to under the law, but I'm not saying we don't give them public hearing. The public input is important.
Right.
It's not my decision. It's, you can read the statute, and it's a public purpose, a public good. We have constituencies that speak to us. We represent the school district. Our valuation is frankly a lot different than the cities and especially the counties. I mean, what we use to measure the appropriateness of this is different. It's connected to how will that benefit our schools? And that's a different question. We don't have to pay to fix the road they're driving on. That's the county's situation. So I think it's important that we have the conversation. And in doing so, I want to make sure that we're having the right conversation. So this document needs to be fixed to accurately have the right number and say school district and not county. I want to make it less confusing for people instead of more. And you're right, Joe, property taxes are very confusing. And most of our money doesn't come from property taxes. But if we abate some of these taxes, that means that that money that otherwise would be in the pool that's distributed throughout the tax base isn't there, which does have an increase in other people's taxes. Or it would actually not increase it, but it would not decrease it.
That is correct.
And having the opportunity to decrease people's taxes is something that I want to at least be able to talk about.
Well,
But I think these are all important things, and we got to be accurate when we're doing this, because there's a lot of conversation at the city and county where people aren't understanding the issue, and they're confused. And I don't want to add to that. I want to try to clarify that, at least for our end.
Well, a simple suggestion, Mike, would be to take the first paragraph and delete the bottom 4 sentences, where it says the total amount of taxes proposed to be abated by the county, et cetera. Just strike those 4 sentences.
Are we required to have that in there in the notice for public hearing is my concern.
I could check that, but I guess the question right now is, do we want to have a public hearing or not on the 10th of September? Or do you want to postpone it for another month?
What's the harm of
What's the
having a
harm of having
public
a
hearing?
meeting?
I
We
don't-
want to hear from the public.
Right.
Let the public come.
And so, but if you think if that's causing a problem with that, then I would suggest just pass a resolution or pass a motion saying we're going to have a public hearing and we're inviting them to come and talk to us. If you don't like the language, simplify it with a simple 1-sentence statement.
I was want to make sure the language is accurate, Joe.
I
So my
understand.
preference of it
No, I
is
understand
that's
that.
accurate. And my only comment on the timing is, that's our first school board meeting after the start of this first school year. This issue is, I'm not going to say controversial, but this is an issue that has gotten some notice in the community. And I don't know, this is my first time on the board having a meeting after the school year started. Is there anything that we do normally that is emphasizing the start of the new school year, whether it's with students or new staff? And if that is the case, I would prefer not to have this be the first thing we talk about at that meeting as opposed to maybe the next meeting. But if there's nothing planned for the start of the school year, then I'm okay with it. I just don't know.
Right. The first meeting, because it's so new to the school year, like I said, I don't even bring an enrollment report to the board that first meeting, because once the buses start rolling, we do find people that go, "You guys have school?" And seriously, we get a lot of registration those first 10 days of kids that aren't in our system. And so it's always the second meeting in September is probably more important than the first one. But
So this would be a good meeting to have this, because there's not a lot of school business to talk at that time.
it is.
So I would make a motion to have a resolution, to have a public hearing on a request by CHS to have a tax abatement, subject to the notice that is publicly published in accordance with state statute is containing accurate language.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay?
Question, is there a date that you want to put with that?
Yeah.
Of
it's in there.
September 10th, I'm sorry.
September 10th,
Or
okay.
the first school board meeting of September.
Right.
Okay,
Any other questions?
Joe, I would say if you talk to an attorney to make sure we
Yep.
get the right language, and if
Right.
we need to have a special resolution passed with that special language, we should
Right.
be able to do that.
We can recall.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay, last call. Any questions?
Was there a second on the
I
resolution?
second.
Yep,
Mari
yep.
did.
So Mike / Mari, you need a vote on the resolution.
Okay, resolution, roll call. Mike?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nicole?
Aye.
Mari?
Aye.
Okay. We're making progress.
Just want to be accurate, Rufus.
Okay, buildings and grounds, maintenance agreement.
Do you want to talk about that, Tyler? We have copies of it here. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I don't have a copy.
Okay.
I was just here to listen.
No, you're doing great. Here it is.
I was by the facility last night after the sun went down, and it's kind of neat. They had lights on, and they were doing work in there about 9 o'clock at night, and pretty exciting. I think it's going to look really good in there.
Yeah, it's going to be nice.
Yeah, I guess, I've been working with Sarah Middlestad, and she wants our help with the maintenance in that building. In fact, Thursday, all of my maintenance staff and myself will be going down there to, tour the building and get more familiar with everything in there. So, they had asked if, I'd be willing to oversee that building along with the maintenance items in there. And worked with Joe and Chris on putting some numbers together there. Until we get a full year in there, it's gonna be hard to tell what costs are gonna be, what's all needed down there. So this is the agreement that we came up with for now, and I guess you're looking to approve this, Joe, at the meeting tonight. And basically, it's myself making sure everything's getting checked over throughout the year, elevators, security systems, sprinkler systems. There'll be air handlers that need to be serviced probably twice a year, and a lot that I have to learn yet down there. But when they commission that building, Sarah and I have been working back and forth the last couple months. I'll be involved with that so that we know the building, what the requirements are and what needs to be done down there. So these are the numbers that we came up with, and with the maintenance part of it, it's just gonna be an on-call type of thing where we bill out them for the maintenance items when our staff is down there doing some maintenance, so.
And just to clarify, we're not providing custodial services. They're going to hire their own
They're gonna hire,
custodians.
I recommended they hire their own.
Yeah.
And Sarah was comfortable with that because in that environment, it takes a special person down there, and felt she would do probably a better job of hiring somebody that to their needs, what they needed. And so I think she's got 2 people hired. And as far as lawn care and snow removal, that'll still be on them as well. This is just the maintenance in the building and overseeing that building, getting them up and running, and kind of play it by year by year to see how things look, I guess.
And just to remind the board too, that we have a vested interest in that building because we have an agreement for 20 years for the lease purchase of that facility. Our share of it is $290,000 per year. And so it's a big chunk of change, and it's important that, I think it's great that, Southern Plains and Fairmont area schools are working collaboratively together since that building at one time used to be ours, and it's in our school district, and I think it is going to be a great facility. I'm glad it's being rehabbed. I think it's good for the city and good for the north side of town to have that Lincoln School
And
going again.
what's nice is we've got files from, Dave kept files on things down there that we did before. as far as custodial end, and so Sarah and I have been meeting back and forth on, how if we had I think they're gonna plan on having a night custodian and then a daytime custodian, ahead of building there, and then, so we've got a lot of information that we've been sharing back and forth with her. So it's been very helpful, I hope on their end as well, so.
Okay, thank you, Tyler.
Are they using, we contribute financially to their operations, correct?
Right. In addition to the building.
Yeah, the building's that separate lease levy, but we contribute money to them for operations.
All the
From-
different districts do.
From an accounting standpoint, does that matter that they're paying us with our, part of our own money? Does that, an accounting thing in the school, accounting?
Our payroll agreement's very similar with them as well.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the building and grounds maintenance service agreement between Fairmont Schools and Spec.
Second.
any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, employment, Mari.
Okay. Activities Director Matt Mahoney is recommending that Elizabeth Aarons be hired as head cheerleading coach for the 2019-20 school year. Elizabeth was a 2009 graduate of Fairmont High School. She is a member of the cheerleading team from 7th to 12th grade, and Elizabeth is currently employed at the Fairmont Mayo Clinic. The second one is the Director of Buildings and Grounds, Tyler Garrison, is recommending that Forrest Hungerhold be hired as Custodian 1 at Fairmont Elementary to replace Ryan Meschke, who will be assuming Tom Seifert's position. Tom will be taking over the role of head building custodian at Fairmont Elementary School when Kurt Eisenberg retires this month. Forrest is a graduate of Grenada Huntley East Chain, and his work experience includes 8 years as a custodian for Rosen and 15 years as assistant manager at Hy-Vee. Most recently, he is employed by Demand Pork. Co-principals Michelle Rosen and Andy Trado have recommended that Vonnie Akins be employed as a kindergarten teacher. We needed to add another section of kindergarten due to the enrollment numbers. Vonnie holds a BA in psychology from Southwest State University and obtained her elementary education degree from Augsburg College. For the last 10 years, she's been teaching second grade in Kipnuk, Alaska. Given the distance Vonnie needs to travel, she will be joining our staff on September 9th. Co-principals Alex Schmidt and Jake Teege have recommended hiring Megan Ricard as a high school paraprofessional. Most recently, Megan has worked as a daycare teacher at St. Paul Lutheran School in Truman. Megan is originally from Truman. Co-principals Alex Schmidt and Jake Teege have recommended hiring Hannah Olson as a high school paraprofessional. Hannah is a 2016 graduate of Fairmont High School. I'll make a motion to hire Elizabeth Aarons as head cheerleading coach for the 2019-2020 school year at a salary of Step A. Forrest Hungerhold as Custodian 1 as salary Step 1, effective 8/26/19. Vonnie Akins as kindergarten teacher, effective 6/28/19 at a salary of BA 36, Step 12. Megan Ricard as a paraprofessional, effective 9/27/19 at a salary of Step 1. And Hannah Olson as a paraprofessional, effective 9/27/19 as salary of Step 1. And also, as an addition, Matt Mahoney has recommended the employment of fall athletic coaches as approved as in Appendix E for the 2019-2020 school year. Sorry about that.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, it was.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Well, maybe Joe can comment on the kindergarten teacher, because I know we had a story, KEYC came down and did a story about that, so.
And the Fairmont Sentinel did too.
Yeah.
Did a story about the kindergarten. Yes. Well, we budgeted initially, we thought we were going to have 100 kindergarten students this year. And as of this morning, we now have 118, and we still think there may be a few more that are coming. So
Good
we
news.
try to keep our kindergarten classes to 19 or 20. And we do have one empty kindergarten classroom. If you remember, Carrie Dulmeyer, who was a kindergarten teacher, she now serves as a science TOSA teacher on special assignment, and her kindergarten classroom is available. And so we'll be moving her to another building another classroom that we have available. But, yeah, it's good news. And what makes this kind of special, you wonder maybe why this teacher wants to come back, but she's from Fairmont, and she has a mother that's still here in town, and she's a 1975 graduate of Fairmont High School, so she's looking forward to coming back home and helping care for her mother also, in addition to caring for our kindergarten kids. And she really interviewed very well. They interviewed her via Skype, of course.
I said, I can't imagine we would have flown up to Alaska to.
And what's interesting is she actually lives in housing that is owned by the state, and they provide their teachers and their principal housing, and the principals and all the teachers live in the same apartment complex. So I don't think we're proposing that here, but but it's pretty isolated. The district she's coming from only has 200 children, K through 12. A very isolated part of Alaska. Anyway, pretty exciting to have her.
Yeah.
Good story.
Did you look through the did you look through the list of all the coaches there? If there's any questions, I'd be glad to yield to any of those.
Do you want a motion to pass that list?
No, we did.
You did
Part
already.
of the,
Yeah.
Oh, it was part of that.
Yeah,
I just-
that was
Okay.
Appendix
Did we
E.
vote? We
Okay,
voted.
got
I
it.
need to stop talking.
Other than that,
Oh.
I saw the cheerleaders down at the Pep Fest last Wednesday, and
Mm-hmm.
it looked like they had lots of participants, and it looked like they were very excited to get started. And it looks like we have lots of participants in pretty much all of our sports, which is great to see.
Yeah, that Pet Fest was nice.
Okay.
there's no bonus step for Hall of Fame coach for Bonk?
Well, next year when he gets his 50th year here, maybe we'll give him a little.
We've already
cupcake
named the
or-
track after him, Mike. What else can we do?
We got another Hall of Famer, Cliff Janke, is going to the Hall of Fame.
Yep, very good.
Okay, Mike, you're on
I
resignation.
haven't talked enough, allow me to talk some more.
Did you vote?
Yeah,
Yeah, we voted.
Okay,
We voted.
thank you.
You're confusing me.
I apologize.
thanks for giving me a chance to say something at this meeting.
Carry on, yes.
We received resignation notices from 3 special ed professionals, Anna Ramon, Elise Roloff, and Tiffany Shooter. We've also received the same resignation notices from Title I aides, Kelly Mueller, Laura Douglas, and Lois Harbo. The effective date for the paraprofessionals was June 5th, 2018. The effective date for the Title I aides was May 31, 2019. Make a motion to accept those resignations.
Second?
Questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Retirement, Nicole.
Yes, Kurt Schloman, maintenance employee, has tenured his letter of retirement. He served our district since 1985. I move that we approve the retirement of Kurt Schloman effective December 1st, 2019.
I'll second it.
Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Teacher contract settlement. We met with teacher representatives last night for an extended meeting, and I believe we have a tentative agreement pending teacher approval. And so we await their judgment.
Well, and we can actually vote on it too tonight. We've done that before in the past.
Okay.
And, but the teachers, teacher negotiators did meet with all the certified teachers today in the Performing Arts Center, and they went through the contract, and overall, it was very well accepted. There were a few people that wish they could have tweaked this or tweaked that, and there always are 5 or 6 like that, but overall, I think it was a very good agreement. And our district negotiates, and I want to thank Rufus and Mari and Nicole for serving on the committee, because we try to do the language items first, and we did that one night in about an hour and a half, I think. And then we met one other time to talk about their proposal and our proposal, or financial proposal. And on the back of the sheet that we have here is the economic impact. We were initially proposing starting off at 3% total package, and they came in a little higher than we did, and we settled on kind of a compromise. The first year, it's 4.2% increase, the total package is, and the other increase for next fiscal year is basically 3.5% for a total of 7.7% over the two-year contract. But one of the things that we've tried to do over the years, we've tried to increase our starting salary. And so in lieu of giving everybody the same percentage increase, which obviously if you're making $40,000 a year versus $75,000 a year, a 2.5% increase on the lower level is a lot less than that at the higher level. We've tried to put a dollar amount on each cell of the contract, which is a little bit different. We've done that before. And so this way, our starting salary this school year will be $43,000 for teachers, and next school year it'd be $44,300. And then we did some things to work on the 403B matching. We're encouraging more teachers to contribute to their 403B, and we match that. There's a new matching schedule at the bottom of this sheet. We did some, we always try to enhance the coaching contracts and those people that do coaches or activities. What we found years ago when we consolidated with the Big South Conference, so the South Central Conference and the Southwest Conference, we were the lowest paying salaries of coaches and activity folks, and over the years we've tried to increase that, and every year we've done that. So that's been helpful. And then Southern Plains has asked us to start taking over and hiring our own teachers in the summer for targeted services. That's the summer school program for kindergarten through 8th grade. And they used to pay $32 an hour, and we bumped that to $35 an hour. And we made that consistent with a number of other things so that when a teacher does curriculum writing, or if they sub during their prep time, or they tutor after school, they get paid $35 an hour. Prom supervision, we upped that to $100 each because that's 4 or 5 hours. And so what was nice, and you folks can observe or can make some comments about the process, but the process is very professional. Mm-hmm. And the total package, I think, is going to make us competitive in our region. And it also, we also have a really strong, you know, half the teachers in this country quit teaching within the first 5 years. That's an amazing statistic, and we don't have that here. Once we get a teacher here, they generally stay for a long time. And so we've had very little turnover. The only time we have turnover, it seems, is when we have people that get married and actually want to go live with their spouse, or if they retire. Okay, that was no editorial comment on my part. Okay, you want to talk about the process at all?
It was a very congenial, friendly process. I think, you know, it was just a matter of trying to narrow a very small gap to get to a conclusion. No, and this is the second time that I participated in negotiations, and you know, I compliment the negotiating team. You know, they're very agreeable and professional and easy to discuss with.
Yeah, when they brought up a point, or we did, for going through it the first time, I thought it was very interesting and very professionally handled.
And the teachers did a nice job. I thought they did a great job doing their research.
Right.
Because they actually went to the state website and they pulled off some budgetary numbers, and they were pretty well informed, weren't they, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank Chris, too. Chris did
Yeah.
a great job costing everything out, and especially last night when we were, you know, it's just like kind of a conference committee, Mike, when you have different parties, and we had to take a couple breaks in the action, and we would caucus in my office, and then we were caucusing in the conference room, and Chris was in his office costing out the latest proposal. And but the question that Nicole keeps asking is this plan affordable? And Chris said yes. And so that was good. But we think it's a good plan for the starting teacher, the folks that have been here for 10, 15, 20 years, and the folks that are getting towards the end of their career. There's something in this contract for everybody. And so I'm very pleased. And we also work very closely, I will mention, with Judy and with the payroll folks to make sure that we not only negotiate a good contract, but we have a contract that's easy to administer. And that's why we want to get some consistency on the $35. So if they're doing this, it's 25, 27, 22, 32. You know, so that's going to be easier to administer too.
A couple of questions.
Yeah.
Number 3, it says remove the $30,000 403B matching contribution cap.
Right.
we were matching, down here it says the annual matching contribution, the max is 2,500.
That's correct.
No, that's what they get every year. So this was a total cap for their,
Yeah, there was,
Their
Oh, you had
career.
you had a lifetime cap?
yes.
Oh.
That's old language that probably
Yeah.
your dad put in.
and I think this makes us a lot more competitive for people, you know, coming from other districts and.
I'll ask him about that.
Just to clarify, though, it's not everyone that gets the
That's right.
$2,500
Yeah, it's after
matching.
21 years of
Yeah, it's after
service.
they've been here for 21 years.
Right.
Right, no,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
when I read that, I'm like, we were matching that high, okay.
No.
That answers my question. Now, the other, we're not doing a percent increase for our base salaries, we're doing a dollar amount.
Right.
And they wanted to do it that way.
Well, they originally proposed a 2.5% increase on the salary schedule. And we proposed this in lieu of that. And they also had some other proposals they had proposed that we did not agree to, but by doing it this way, remember, remember our salary schedule is a grid, and
Yeah.
there's 17 steps to go down. And so anybody that's currently employed, they're not only getting the 1282, but they're actually moving down the salary schedule. So individually, they might be getting a $2,000 pay increase or a $2,500 pay increase this year. And so if you're moving through the salary schedule, you get more. The people at the top of the salary schedule, they're kind of capped. And so by putting dollars on each cell, then they get some money, but then that's why we did something with the 403B to say, okay, we're going to up the 403B match so that if you've been here more than 20 years, then we'll match up to $2,500 per year. And that was another way to give the folks at the top of the salary schedule more money to reward their service to us. And you kind of, this is a very comprehensive package. When you lay it all out together, you got to go, oh.
And the total increase over 2 years is very close to what they requested coming in.
Right.
And so, yeah, their negotiating team was happy with the result.
Well, they did their research, too. I was very grateful they don't ask for things we don't have
Yeah.
available. And so they'd done their research, they'd gone through the budget, just like we as a board do. We go through the budget and we try to determine what our budget is going into negotiations. So,
I'm grateful that we have a district that is able to solve these quickly.
Right.
I know there are plenty around the state that
Right.
are still working on their 2-year contract from the previous time and still haven't solved it. So I appreciate everything that the teacher team does, and very glad to hear that we're continuing this trend of getting it settled quickly so we can move on to the important
Right.
business of what they get paid for.
Any other questions?
So they have approved this
Yes.
memo.
Yes, right.
the
The
negotiating.
negotiating team has, but they have to take it to
They have to wait.
their
they have a clause-
constituents.
They have a clause in their contract, Mike, that they have to wait 3 days after they've been briefed to actually vote.
So
And
who acts first? Do they approve it first, or do we approve it?
It can go either way. In the past, we've done it both ways. So my expectation, I've been guaranteed by the negotiating team that this will pass overwhelmingly. Yep.
I think when we left last night, we all felt like this was where we should have been.
Right.
Last call for questions.
If they want it, I make a motion to approve the new teacher contract.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
Mark, okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move to board committee reports, curriculum. Nicole?
Yeah, we met way back on July 24th. It was myself, Rufus, Mari, Principal Niss, and Superintendent Brown. And we talked a little bit about what Kim's role is in the district now, and as curriculum, instruction, staff development principal. And she gave us a great diagram of where her position is, how it overlaps, what she sees her responsibilities as being, and we concurred with what she had presented and added that, didn't we add something to it? Maybe it's already in this document she has here, but anyway, and then we also talked with her about the new science curriculum implementation, because they're in that process right now. Science education will involve less of learning of ideas disconnected from the questions about phenomenon, teachers posing questions with only one right answer, student reading textbooks and answering questions at the end of each chapter, moves away from worksheets, but it instead focuses on systems thinking and modeling to explain phenomena and give a context for the ideas to be learned. It focuses on students conducting investigations, solving problems, engaging in discussions with teacher guidance. Focuses on students discussing open-ended questions that focus on the strength of the evidence used to generate claims, reading multiple sources and developing summaries of information, writing journals, reports, posters, media presentations that offer explanations and arguments. And it also focuses on provisions of support so that all students can engage in sophisticated science and engineering practices. So it's quite a process. It's very different than what's been done before in science classrooms in the way that it's taught, and they're working very hard on that. We talked about the English language arts curriculum. A few years ago, we adopted the new curriculum with Pearson Language Arts, and we wanted to ensure that at that time, there was a lot of instruction for the teachers that were implementing that, and it's a very detailed curriculum. It's a very intense curriculum, and we wanted to ensure that the new staff in the English language arts areas in the elementary school had sufficient training in that curriculum when they taught it. We talked about PE curriculum implementation. That curriculum's being changed right now, and also that one of Kim's responsibilities is to develop an online school in Fairmont, to look into it with the state. That's not just online classes. It's an actual online school where a student could come online to Fairmont High School and get a diploma from the Fairmont online school, Fairmont area schools online school. So she's looking at that with the state, seeing what's necessary to implement that, and we should hear back from her by November 1st. It was a
And
very good
also-
meeting.
Yes, it was, very good, very exciting stuff going on. And the other November deadline was the Gifted and Talented program.
Yes.
And that in offering.
Yep.
And the changes in the science curriculum, they're in anticipation of, or follow new changes at the national level, and the
Right.
state have they finalized their?
They're very close to finalizing the new state standards. And then, remember, we had a group of faculty that went to the University of Minnesota a couple weeks ago for one full week of training on different ways to teach middle school science. And we're waiting for that report to come back. I'm sure there's going to be some additional requests for some hardware in those classes, some experiments and things like that, but.
Do you have them come to the board to present?
Yes, yeah, we do plan on that, Mike. And this was a very unique situation, and we want to thank one of our former, Lucas Simpson is a former graduate of Fairmont. He graduated 2 years ago, and he's going to the University of Minnesota, and he's the one that got us connected. We're the only Greater Minnesota school doing this. The other 3 schools are St. Paul and Minneapolis, and I think maybe Minnetonka or one other school up in that region. So there's 3 metro schools, and we're the only outstate school working with the University of Minnesota. But our teachers were invited to go up and spend a week. They put them up in a motel. They gave them a $1,000 stipend to do this training, and then as they implement this program, at the end of the year, they'll get another $1,000. So it was, I talked to a couple, I talked to Ann Holm, for example, I talked to Jim Buss, and I talked to one other science teacher, and they were just, they're pumped.
Oh, good.
Well,
So-
you know, the whole idea is to make, you know, science and math more relevant, more fun, more engaging. Yes, more fun.
Math is very
I know, you can't have much more fun than math. Not even law. So it's going to be a good program. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those are close.
Okay.
Okay,
Anybody brought up the idea of having an open house at the TAC when people can see the new
Did you get to
Good
see him
evening.
last night?
Yes.
They were locked up by the time I left.
Oh, well, tomorrow night, from 6 to 8 tomorrow night, there's an open house. I think I mentioned that.
Yes.
The kids